All right, everybody, welcome to How to Master Resume Writing in a Competitive Market. It is Thursday, April the 4th, and I hope you are doing well on this fine spring day. I know it's been raining in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's a little bit sunnier down here on the Central Coast, but either way, we are here today to talk about your resume, whether you like it or not, and how you feel about it. Just a couple of housekeeping items. I'm going to try and answer questions as we go along. You will get access to the recording, and I'll follow up in a message afterwards. If you don't get something, just let me know. You can find me all sorts of places around the web, and I look forward to hearing from you when I hear from you. So, without further ado, we do have some things to cover here, and I'd love to get started so we can talk about your resume. And so, just before we get started, a little bit about me. If you've never met me before and this is your very first time on this webinar, my name is Albert. I am the founder of Albert's List, a community of 49,400 members on Facebook to support and connect job seekers to various resources. We've been ongoing now for 11 years, and you can also get it to the link that you see on screen below. And also, I'll just go ahead and type it into the chat window here. Oh, thank you so much, Jeanette. Um, so here you go. Let me know that you found this webinar through the chat here on Zoom, and we can get you into there. I will try to enable chat saving functions. I don't really actually know how to do that from here, but you can. But let me figure out how to do this a little bit later. We'll just get to the agenda here. So, as we do with every single presentation, we cover several things. Number one being the state of the job market, because we don't know where we're going unless we know where we've been. Number two, we're going to talk a little bit about what is a resume exactly. And then we're going to talk about how to tell a story with that resume. And then we're going to connect that resume to the interview. I think it's incredibly important to know that your resume is just one piece of your entire job search ecosystem. And so, for order for you to really succeed at the job search game, your resume is where it starts and also to some degree where it ends. All right. So, the state of the job market. In order to understand where we're going, we need to know where we've been and also stand in place. So, the first thing we want to know is to talk about the monthly unemployment rate here in the United States. So one thing that we want to talk about here is that, and this is actually this is actually going to be out of date as of tomorrow morning at 5:30 in the morning, because tomorrow is our monthly job search report. But as of February 2024, when the last jobs report came out, unemployment was at 3.9%. It's been kind of finicky between February 2022 and to last year, really going from 3.8% down to 3.4, and now back up to 3.9. This is officially Bureau of Labor Statistics reported data. I know that it's rough and tough for many of you out here, and that's why many of you are on this webinar. And because, even though the job market seems to be doing great for some, it is not doing great for all. And as you know, the reason why it's not doing great for all is because we've had these layoffs since really the middle of 2022. Interest rates have gone up significantly since 2022 and now sit between 5.25 and 5.5 basis points, and should go down at some point this year. But layoffs have started and continued, with Amazon and Intel being the latest one to announce even more layoffs yesterday, because the cost of doing business is high. And so during those times when the cost of doing business is high, companies let people go because they want to focus on the fundamentals. So all of those moonshot projects that you've gotten to know over the last couple of years in what we call the zero interest rate period, the ZIRP, ZIRP, have completely vanished for the most part and have gone into things that people really want to work on, whether it's your stable cloud solutions or the artificial intelligence that we've come to know and love over the last few years. AI related job cuts are also a thing, right? So I see that some people are using ChatGPT these days because it's an important skill to have. Artificial intelligence is here, and it is here to be disruptive. And for over the last year, from May to January of 2024 this year, Challenger Gray and Christmas The job search placement firm and post-employment firm has reported that companies are laying off people because of AI, with a majority of these layoffs coming in technology. There's been some coming in warehousing, fintech, pharmaceuticals, and the media, and we expect this trend to continue as AI starts to mature and companies start to get rid of jobs that are repeatable tasks and not as strategically focused. So as we mentioned, along with the AI story is also the inflation story. Um, Inflation and interest rates very much have a lot to do in common because when interest rates are high, or rather when inflation is high, interest rates also go up because the whole entire idea is to depress spending if we can. And as we depress spending, one of those things that are depressed is companies spending money on that of employees. And so we anticipate that interest rates will drop by the midpoint of some point this year, as our friends at the Federal Reserve want our interest rates to hit 2%. We will see whether that will happen or not, depending on how things go. And, really, when these interest rates go down and inflation reaches the goal target of the Federal Reserve, that will get to a point where companies will be willing to hire even more people. So that's very much TBD. In the meantime, while we look at this, it's also important to note that if you do need a paycheck and if you do need to find ways to survive in this economy, it is always important to know what it is that you should be looking for. Because while you had a good job that might have helped you in 2021 and 2022, that same job may not so much be in existence in 2024. So I look at I look at some of these jobs and I realize, some of them may not necessarily be the ones that are as interesting to me, such as wind turbine service technicians. I don't necessarily think that, despite 108% growth, that's a significant job that will be here in the future. But if you look at jobs number 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8, and 10, actually, they all carry a common pattern. And this is something that you see often on the Bureau of Labor Statistics job report coming out tomorrow, which means that there is a increasing demand for healthcare. And of course, why wouldn't be? Because baby boomers are retiring by the thousands every single day and will be doing so for the next 5 to 10 years, and hopefully living for the next 20 years after that. Which means that if you're seeking a career in healthcare right now and are willing to touch icky things and willing to be with people as they look at the final days of their lives, or try to continue to be as as immortal as they can be, then you know what? You're looking at a definite possibility for a career of healthcare that could take you for the next 20 to 25 years. Until then, though, if you want to look at something else or something that's closer to your home and is closer to your familiarity, then that's why we're here on this webinar talking about how to write your resume. So, in conclusion, 2024 continues to be uncertain. Interest rates aren't going to fall until later this year, which means hiring is either going to be on pause or roles are going to be increasingly competitive. AI is continuing to remain a hot field along with healthcare. And health tech, I would say, by extension, is also someplace that is very interesting too, as we look to digitize and create those health customer experiences. And job hunting is going to be remained very, very competitive as we go into the next couple of months. Hopefully, it'll get a little bit easier as the year comes through. But again, we have to really understand where the market's going to be. And that's something that's really, really hard to predict. So, the first thing I want to talk about today is, what is a resume? And to really help me with that is, I want to look at a diagram that we've all known for quite a while. Some of you may be on this webinar for the very first time, and some of you may have seen me give my talks before, so you'll know what I'm referring to next when I talk about the hierarchy of needs. The hierarchy of needs, as you know, is a diagram that describes what it is that people are looking for when they are looking for survival, right? So at the very bottom, you have your physiological needs like breathing, food, sleep, excretion, going all the way up to self-actualization, where you have the ability to solve problems, acceptance of facts, and so forth. So, what I've created in Similarity is what I like to call the hiring hierarchy. The hiring hierarchy is what I describe as a diagram of things that companies are looking for when they are looking to hire somebody new. It is, in some sense, the sum total of an ideal employee, but more so, it is a list of needs and interests that similarly companies demand and require of prospective employees should they be interested in working at a particular company. Going from bottom to top, it is the priority needs of what exactly a company wants. If many of you here are white collar workers, the first two to three levels of this entire of these rows are important for you because they describe what it is that you need to bring for the most part when you look for a job. And in a really competitive market, these are needed especially. So, really, a lot of us come into the webinars like this today and we're job hunting because we possess the hunger, the attitude, the desire to hustle, self awareness, resilience, and commitment to our job search. Then, as we get deeper into that job search, we know that we require a lot of additional things that we must excel at in order to stand out as the best candidate. Those including your job search skills, your overall skills and capabilities, personal branding, your ability to network, interviewing, and of course, your resume and cover letter. And so today, within the hiring hierarchy, we're talking about the resume and the cover letter as an integral foundation of this job search pyramid. In order to really be considered for a job, you must have that resume and cover letter look good because that's the initial thing that gets you through the door. And so, before we even think about what it is when we want to think strategically within the interview, talk about the connection of our job and our career to what we want to do, or have that vision or even be a leader, we need to be able to know how to tell that story. And so initially, when we think about this, is what is a resume? A resume is number one, a marketing document that showcases your capabilities. It's a historical document that's a proof of concept asset that guides the entire hiring process. I'm going to show you what that means on my next slide here. It is a conversation starter at the end of the day that enables the right interview questions. And we're going to talk about that in our final section today. And it's a relevant history of what you've done that proves that you can do it again. And it doesn't need to be any more complicated than this. When somebody looks at a resume, what they're thinking is, does the past does the past success of somebody indicate that they're also going to have future success? We know in the finance world that when you're looking at the stock market, it definitely doesn't work that way because a stock that goes up will inevitably go down because people want to sell their profits. When it comes to your resume, on the other hand, the hope is what goes up will continue going up in perpetuity, in that your value increases and that you're really good at what you do. And so, where does a resume fit within the job search process? Unfortunately or fortunately, it fits in everywhere. Because when you have your resume and when your resume is really, really great or really, really bad, it exposes everything and anything about you throughout the entire job search process. In the recruiter screen, it shows that you passed the initial screening, you went through the applicant tracking system, and that you have a really, really great way of showcasing what it is that you've done and you've caught the recruiter's attention. In the initial candidate screen with your future hiring manager, it proves that you know your resume and it proves that you know how your resume relates to the role and provides guidance for the entire interview so that you can tell the right stories. And is similarly done in the team member screens that you have. In the project round, it shows that you know what to do that's said on your resume. So if you're a marketer and you claim to be a marketer, the project that you do in developing a marketing strategy or doing some written content will show that you know that your resume says that the right thing and isn't something that where you're trying to pretend to be somebody that you're not. And then in the reference round, it confirms that your resume is correct because they're going to call the people that you worked with in the past and they're going to want to hear, did person ABC do exactly these things that they said on their resume? And did they work there? And so the more you tell the truth on your resume, and I'm assuming that nobody's lying, the better outcomes that you're going to have in the future because it showcases that you know what you're talking about. And in addition to that, are who you say you are. So now that we know that a resume is all about being able to tell a story, we want to be able to talk through what that story looks like because every story has a good beginning, middle, and end. And in a competitive market, you want a story that will not only capture the attention of an individual, but is also going to be one that showcases who you are in a clear and concise manner. There's lots of really great resumes, and there is also such a thing as a really terrible resume. So, for those of you who have resumes that are 2 columns, 3 columns, resumes that have your skills at the very bottom, resumes that don't showcase your education, resumes that are missing numbers, listen up because these next couple of slides are going to be for you. All right. So, what's the first thing? The first thing that you have to know about a resume is that recruiters only read resumes for 6 seconds if you're lucky at the top left hand corner, as denoted by this triangle. It's important to showcase the most important things in that area on your resume as a result, including, not limited to, your role, summary or highlights of what you've accomplished, your skills, and then immediate professional experience. If you're somebody who's a new grad on this particular call, you might want to put your education skills near this top part as well because it showcases you're still in school. But for those who are the rest of us who've been working for several years or many more years, you're going to want to have this particular order in order as you go through, and I'm going to have that in the next couple of slides. And so, as you see with my resume, the top left hand corner shows that I'm a software as a service product marketer and content strategist. You can see my contact info immediately. And then you can see a summary that goes right into what it is that I do, a Content and Product Marketing Alliance certified product marketing professional who's got experience across Fortune 500 companies. And then you go down to my technical skills, and then you can see immediately who I am working for. It gets to the point really quickly, and it doesn't distract anybody's eyes from looking anywhere else. And you know what? This resume has worked because it's given me at least 30 job offers over the last 5 job searches going back to about 2016. So if it works for me, feel free to take it and apply it for yourself as well. I encourage full copying, and if you want a copy of my resume, reach out to me over Eventbrite or wherever you found this webinar, and I can happy to send my resume to you so you can copy it for yourself. So the other thing, on the other hand, is you don't want to make your resume hard to read. This is a resume that we had from one of our workshops about a month ago. And you can see that this resume is difficult because when somebody looks at it, it's incredibly hard to know where to go and look. Right? You have your profile on one column, you have your experience on the other column. And if you continue going down this particular screenshot, you can also see that their skills are on one side, and then their education is also on the other side as well. This makes it hard to read. Recruiters don't know where to look, and it's important to put that important content at the very, very front. Yeah. And in addition to that, the applicant tracking system is going to have problems parsing the multi-column content because it's not really sure what to do. And if you're also using tables, that's also going to make it harder as well. I don't use any tables on my resume, and I also encourage you not to do the same. So, what exactly should the resume look like? So here's sort of the best way to tell your story. As I said earlier, you have your name and you have your other identifiers. You have your summary plus your highlights. You have your skills that are categorized and comma separated. So I'm going to go back a couple slides, right? I have mine categorized here as content marketing, then with the items below it with the item separated by comma. And that actually helps because the applicant tracking system looks for that, especially when they have those skills listed within what they're looking for on their job descriptions. Then you have your experiences, which are bulleted that show impact, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then we're going to have your education and your certifications. And so, how should you tell that story on your resume? Well, the way that I like to take a look at, and by the way, this is my slide in between, which talks about what else that you should have on your resume too, is that if you're a new graduate, as we mentioned, place your education between your summary highlights and your skills. If you have hobbies on your resume, generally speaking, the preference, in my opinion, is to leave your hobbies off unless it's relevant to the role. And then you also should leave off your references upon request. And the reason why I state these two facts is because when it comes to working anywhere, whether the economy is really good um, or really bad, it's the purpose of you applying for a job is because you have business activities that you're helping a company do. If you've heard me on my presentations in the past, you know that if a company doesn't need to hire someone, it's probably not going to do it. But a company does hire people because it wants to look for a particular set of skills to do particular things within that company to help that company get to the very next level. Um, and so, for you to be effective in writing a resume, writing and focusing on the business aspects are important. We have a question here in regard to the 6-second rule. This has been widely cited on various places. I've seen it as short as 4 seconds and as high as 8 seconds. Essentially, you have less than 10 seconds to make an impression. So it's important that no matter where you are, that you want to be able to make that impression as short a time as possible and make it as effective throughout. So, with regards to your resume, wherever your resume is, your impact is going to come from several different areas. And what I talk about is is telling a story with your resume is that your resume is going to look in three different manners. And so, your resume needs to reflect one of these three areas. Number one is growth. And that's how you grow the company, whether you're a marketer, whether you're a salesperson, whether you're a business development individual, or somebody who works in digital marketing. Number two is you work in the preservation space. And I think it's funny that PowerPoint gave me a picture of a fossil here. But in the preservation space, what it means is that you are here to help a company save money. You're here to help them guide them through operative elements, or you're here to help them. You're here to help them drive the day-to-day business so that things that can be that aren't growth or innovation focused can be continued. So these are also your admin assistants and so forth, and that's what keeps a company running. And then the third piece is you're in the innovation area. The innovation area is you're a software developer, you're a software engineer, you're a technical individual that's helping a company build new technology. And so you have to in this place showcase on your resume that you build impact through the innovation that you develop. All right, so what does that look like at the end of the day? I did this for one of my resume items a couple of weeks ago on Albert's List, and really what I wanted to showcase was how you write a resume and the verbs that you use and what it looks like at the end of the day. Yes, and Larry is correct. You have anywhere from a few seconds to a minute. So if you have a recruiter who's willing to look at your resume and spend 5 minutes on it to give you feedback, that's about 500% more than what you're really going to get anywhere else. In essence, at the end of the day, and especially in this market where you have thousands of resumes and thousands of applications for every single role, if somebody's willing to take a look at it for 6 seconds, you should definitely consider yourself beating the odds. So, when it comes to writing that resume, there are things that you should do and there are things that you shouldn't do. And so what that really comes down to is leading that impact, right? So in this particular diagram, I have something that I shared on Albert's List several weeks ago, and it really was for me to highlight what it is that I do right and wrong on my resume, but what others should look to do on their resumes as well, right? So in the green is your do this, and then your yellow is the don't do this. And what that means is that in the green, what I'm doing is focusing on impact and not rewriting job descriptions. A lot of folks, as I've noticed, rewrite job descriptions because they're looking to match to the job description. But when a company puts a job description together, they're not looking for that match, they're looking for somebody to showcase impact. Businesses hire you for potential based on the results that you've built in the past. So anything that showcases your ability to have results is going to be amazing, no matter what it is that you work for, whether you're in a growth, preservation, or innovation type of role. And this is imperative at the end of the day, whether you work in a cost or profit center. We've all heard when we do We've all heard that when we do our resumes or when we work somewhere, that we're either in a cost or a profit center. And really, what that just means is that you are somebody who costs the company money or you are somebody who helps the company make money. And so, in order to really showcase your value, your resume needs to reflect that. And so I've been asked to repeat a statement here. I say that businesses hire for potential based on your results. At the end of the day, businesses are always going to hire because because they want to hire, right? They're not charities. They're hiring because that they want people to bring in impact. And the more of the impact that they know that you can bring, the higher chances of you getting that interview with that. So, um, how do the ATS look at this? The ATS doesn't necessarily look at this as much as they're looking at keywords. So the keyword piece goes all the way back to what we're saying with the technical skills, with your ability to be relevant here in the summary, and then also to be able to showcase somewhere at the top of the resume what it is that you do for your job. And so when you are able to write that, then in my opinion, you get through to the next round, and also being able to match with the job that you have applied for. Uh, yeah. So going back to this, right? When you then write what it is that's on your resume that showcases impact, you want to use these verbs that we know showcase what it is that you do at the work, at the job. So everything from leading to guiding to managing something, plus what it is that the duty that you did, plus how it impacted the company, plus quantifying the impact. So for example, you might want to say something like, uh, I co-led a newsletter that was targeted at 5,000 HR executives on a monthly basis that drove $275,000 in marketing qualified leads. And so that's the piece in here that you show your verb that you led something that was a newsletter that impacted the company with $275,000 in marketing qualified leads, and then quantified the impact by going out to 5,000 people. Um, does it matter if my CV is more than one page nowadays? No, it does not matter. I generally say that resumes need to be 2 pages or a little bit less than that because then you don't have people printing out too much paper. But you can go to 3 pages if your resume is longer than what people usually have here. And so here are some of the verbs that you can see that are used within the context of a resume. You have verbs like organized, oversaw, produced, and so forth. And this will be in the slides that we share later so that you can leverage these for your own resume. But at the end of the day, when you're showing impact, you want to show the action verb plus the task or the project plus the metric or the result. And again, these are the types of statements that you need to have in your resume because it shows that you're not just at a company to exist, you're there to do the work that is necessary so that you can show that you've built impact and that you left a company better than you found it. So, with that said, I wanted to talk a little bit about how you connect your resume to the interview. So, we've talked a little bit about interviews in past presentations. If this is your very first presentation, I'm going to give you a really quick primer on on what I feel interviews are at the end of the day. Number one, interviews are about two things, they're about creating excitement and they're about reducing concern. Excitement within a job interview is when you find alignment with the person who's talking to you, and you realize that there's a match between the type of work that you do and the project that they are looking to fill. Concern is when you go into an interview and you give answers that only dig you into deeper holes, such as answering incorrectly why it is that you left your last role or why you don't get along with other people. And it just leads them down a path where they wonder what it is that you're doing. And so, what does that look like? Your resume, in that sense, then needs to create the avenues of excitement in what I call our softball pitch questions that allow you to hit home run type answers. And so that's why the bullets you should have should accentuate your capabilities. The stories that you tell off of those should lead you to the right conversations and steer it down the right question. And then you write the strongest bullets to get the question you want to answer. That's how it works. And so, yeah, we're getting a lot of really good statements within the webinar chat here. Who spends 6 seconds researching a potential investment? If people are the most valuable asset employers want an impact, why aren't they investing time? That's a really great question, and that's a thought that I believe in too, because I think it is crazy that people only spend 6 seconds, which is why, on one hand, you should spend more time getting referrals. But on the other hand, if you do have that resume and you're investing time in that resume, one thing that you have to realize too is that a lot of companies get thousands upon thousands of job applications. And so a lot of these job applications aren't really all that relevant sometimes to the job that's at hand. So sometimes that cuts out almost half to 75% of the applications, and they need an easy way to do that. For the remaining 25%, it's all about looking for the right things. And sometimes you have a recruiting coordinator to get to the point of where you want it to be. So, speaking of getting your resume to the point that you want it to be, you want to have your resume at a point where you get those softball questions asked of you because you've told your story well enough, right? And so, what does that look like? When it comes to your resume, you want to have these lines that you know are going to lead to questions that people are going to ask about. So, for example, on my Alberts list point underneath my resume, I have some bullets that include saying that I grew profit and loss 178% year over year by implementing specific boot camps and career focused content. And so that leads to questions such as maybe how did you do that? Or what is your process for driving revenue? I also have other bullets like launching the side hustle program that we have on Albert's list, which you can find on our Eventbrite page, where we say that we served over 40 job seekers with 6 week intensive programmers on creating entrepreneurial projects across a variety of different areas. And this may lead to questions such as what does your program look like? Or how do you develop something like this for us? And so depending on who you are in your resume, you want these types of data points because they showcase that you're not only a person who comes to work, but you also come to work to showcase and create results. What are some other areas, right? So this is another resume that we've been reviewing for the last couple of months in our boot camp. This person was a program director at IBM, and they achieved 500 million in community source pipeline, and continues consistently achieved 100% pipeline growth year over year for 4 years by aligning marketing strategy with community strategy. They expanded their community from 50 to 300,000 members and generated 6 million page views and 76,000 event registrations within 3 years of launch. And so these are all things that a recruiter is going to ask about. How did you do that? How did this impact revenue? How did you do that? And what processes did you use? And these are all questions that lead back into STAR questions, as you know, which is your situation, task, action, and your result. As you know, in the interview, these are all questions that are asked where somebody's going to say, tell me about a time where you were successful in bringing a product to market. And these are the very stories that you take out from your resume that you're going to use within these stories because they show that you're somebody who knows what you're doing and also can describe it in an organized manner of how you went to that process so that you can repeat it at the next company that you go and work at. So if you're not a marketer like me or this person, there's also other ways where you can do this as well. This is an engineering resume that we had for somebody who's a head of engineering. And they had guide and mentored a cross-functional team of 8 developers, resulting in an increase in 10% code quality and a 9% reduction in bug fixes. And so you're going to want to know from a technical standpoint, what strategies did you employ to make this happen? They also had established a CI/CD flow for all environments, which helped reduce manual tasks by 80% and productivity increased by 12%. And so you're going to want to know what tools did you use to make this happen? Or what were the productivity hacks? And what leadership techniques did you use? And so even if you're somebody who is an executive assistant or somebody who's a recruiter or somebody who's an HR, having this type of data is what's going to lead you to those softball questions because they're going to know somewhat how. They're going to know what you did and how you resulted in it. And then they're going to be able to take it out to the next level where they have a good understanding of, okay, you know how to do this work, but even more so, you know what it means to be successful in it. So that's something to consider as you look through with this resume. So I know this webinar is a tad shorter than the usual hour that we go, but I want to answer any questions that all of you have before we go into our next step section. And I do see a couple of questions in the Q&A, and I do appreciate also the kind words from folks who do find value within this. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, and exactly. So Donna says the resume impact statements are interpretations of the job description. How do you get enough of the keywords into your resume for the applicant tracking system following this format? So, that's a really great point. So a lot of job descriptions you're going to read is you're going to see you're going to see a description that says, we are looking for somebody who has experience in creating programs that drive impact, and within the results question they'd say like 5+ years of leading product marketing launches. And so you're going to have to go back to your resume, which I'll go back to at the very beginning here, that says like, okay, where has somebody driven that, right? And you're going to see like, say, I launched the Azure Confidential Computing product, producing a blog post landing page, and supported demand generation campaign and drove $500,000 in marketing qualified leads. And so somebody's going to ask me, so how did you drive that launch? And I'm going to say something along the lines of, well, I supported the production of a white paper through messaging and positioning and product accuracy review. I liaised with a um, I liaised with an agency to help run a paid campaign, of which we put in $50,000 and ended up with $500,000 in marketing qualified leads. And of course, I'm going to organize that answer in a star method manner, but it's going to be one of those softball questions that leads to a home run answer because I give away what it is that I did, and my resume is going to help me get to that point. Yeah. Cool. So, I mean, last year you sold 10 items. This year you sold 20 items. That's a 100% increase in sales, and that counts as your number. Ella asks, how do you calculate the reduced quality code by 10%? How do you arrive to those numbers? So you document what it is that your progress is, and then you share that based on the numbers that you have. And, you're in some sense assume that you're being honest in that sense. So we're going to keep going here forward, and I'm going to keep answering questions for folks. Um, we hear that the market is slow and that people are not able to find jobs. I still find so many people getting new jobs on LinkedIn. So where are we going wrong? I would say that that's a combination of the industry that you're working in, the strength of your resume, people working through their connections, and people working through what it is that, and people working through their connections. And so if you're in a competitive industry such as recruiting, then it's going to be really, really hard. But if you're something like a data scientist or even somebody who's in healthcare, as we had mentioned earlier, it's going to be a little bit easier. Is it okay to add a key projects achievement section? I don't think it's not only okay, but I think it's absolutely integral. I think that having that piece in your resume is going to showcase to people that you know what you're doing, and then you also have that you've accomplished something that you can possibly apply to the next job that you go into. Is this a good approach to add in the experience section of keywords? You have research and market analysis. Yeah, I would say that you have those numbers, and what that's going to do is that's going to inspire someone to ask you how it is that you accomplish that, and what it is that the steps that you take to do that for the next employer that you work for. All right. So, how should a business owner reword their resume to join the workforce? So a business owner should focus on their results and talk to what it is that they were able to create in their in the work that they've done. So if you look back at my resume here, right, Albert's List is my side hustle. So if you think about that, I grew profit and loss 178% year over year. I'm going to get asked, how did I do that? And that could go into my processes for creating boot camps, pricing, and so forth. Um, yeah, knowing specific HR software is a technical skill. And then the other question is for coursework and education, go into the education section. Yes, it would. Yep, you would put that in there. So, um, now that you know a little bit about how I see resumes, let's see what else. Can you please share how to highlight events and awards during your education that are relevant to the job, such as showing leadership and hosting events that are topic specific to the role? Um, so you're going to put that in the top section of your resume. We'll go back to my resume here. So in your summary section, instead of putting a summary, you can put bullet points to showcase that you've won specific awards, that you have created results within the companies that you've worked at, and then be specific in that manner. If you're a student, you could definitely put that at the top too, and that'll help you a lot. How does a resume with freelance experience and a field of research build on showing impact that could stand out? So if you're showing research, right, you're not in the growth section. You can somewhat be in the innovation area, and you could also be in the you could also be in the area where you're discussing preservation. So for that, you're talking about your research that is going to help push a field forward. So what is the impact of your research? Did it lead to a grant? Has it led to more visibility? Did it help you get speaking sessions at notable conferences? Did it lead to the development of a prototype for something, depending on the type of research that you do? So that may be interesting to know. What are the recommended strategies or protocol for describing contractual positions on resumes, such as being a contractor at a FANG company? So what you're going to do in that regard is you're going to put that you worked at a FANG company, uh, and then you can say in parentheses next to a Facebook, an Amazon, or an Apple, you could say contract through Aerotech or contract through Tech Systems, and that'll be fine. Do you recommend editing the resume for each position? Uh, I sort of do, I sort of don't. I think that if you know what you're looking for and you're not exactly looking to transfer out of a particular area, then you're going to want to customize your resume. But if you're a good product marketer like I am, going to a product marketing or going into a content marketing job, then you generally don't need to update the keywords associated with it. Say you have a career gap. How do you get noticed by recruiters over people who do not have any career gaps? Do recruiters prefer people with no career gaps? The answer to that is yeah, recruiters unfortunately prefer people with no career gaps. But if you have a career gap, it's important to explain what you've been doing during that career gap that is relevant to the work that you're doing. Whether you've been consulting, whether you've been continuing to learn and get a degree, whether you've built your own business, all of those are important because they show a continuation in what it is that you've done in your career so far. Yeah. So, we're getting towards the end of our presentation here, and I'm going to go through a couple of the next steps that we have as well. So, I want to thank everyone for their time today with us. It's very, very kind that you've joined us to learn more about how to write your resume. One of the things that we have here, in addition to joining our Albert's job listings and referrals community, is that we have what we like to call the Job Seeker Survival Kit. The Job Seeker Survival Kit is a series of 39 videos around finding your next job and what to do once you get hired, as well as sample mock interviews that we've held over the last couple of years. This is 49 hours of total content that comes out to about $1,600 that you can have today for just $17. And I will send all of these links in the follow-up message. You can get your kit today for just $17. And you can also sign up for office hours, which we have for just $20 a year. It's every other Wednesday from 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific, where I answer any questions that you may have and help you along in what it is that you're searching for in your job search. In addition to that, if you also liked what you heard, you can also get your resume reviewed and you can also have career coaching. And so what I do in my career coaching is I have two resume reviews, including strategy, formatting, and a lot of the impact statements and so forth that I had mentioned to you in these previous slides. And so what you get with that is your two resume reviews plus an additional 30 minutes of coaching over 3 sessions. And normally I charge $250 or more for that, and I give that to you for $150. And I will also follow up with this as well. On the free side of things, if you're looking to stay in touch, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Please join Albert's List, where you can also ask questions and meet new people. And you can indicate that you discovered me or this community through the webinar. And so, without further ado, I want to thank you again. This presentation will be recorded and has been recorded, and it'll be on our YouTube channel in really just shortly here, and we'll also have that presentation link. Thank you again so much. Best of luck in your job search, and we look forward to seeing you all soon at a future webinar. Appreciate your time, and have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye bye.